You know, a 6-year-old girl from the Bronx with a whole lot of soul making headlines during Hispanic Heritage Month. And we showed you Alma's Way last week, but in case you missed it, meet Alma.
I love it. It's the view from my window, my friends, our neighborhood.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Way to go, Alma.
This is great.
Eso!
Oh, that's great.
Oh, this looks so beautiful. Thank you, Alma. Thank you, everybody.
Yo, Alma, can you paint a mural on the wall at the city center?
Alma is the creation of a very familiar face to us all. It is an honor and a privilege to welcome Lifetime Achievement Emmy Award-winning Sonia Manzano, who played Maria for more than 4 decades on Sesame Street. Good morning, Sonia. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Oh, sure. My pleasure. Any opportunity to talk about Alma's Way.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you went from being one of the first Latina characters on national television to now working behind the scenes as the executive producer of Alma's Way. Was this something that you had always dreamed of doing?
No, actually, I did not. I never thought I'd go back into television after Sesame Street. After all, how are you going to top that act?
Exactly.
But PBS asked me to create a Latinx family show, an animated series. And because I'm Puerto Rican and New Yorican, that's what I made them.
Yeah.
And because I was raised in the South Bronx, that's where I placed the show.
Well represented here, you know, and you're bringing up New Yorican and so on and so forth, you know, and Alma's family speaks a little Spanglish in the series, right? Which also mixes in a lot of cultural lessons at the same time. So I want to show a clip and then talk more about it.
Okay.
Ready to bomba? Shoulders! Snap that skirt! Shovel back!
If bomba dancing is just waving your skirt around, then this is going to be super easy.
Bomba dancing.
So, you know, we're talking about cultural lessons, and this was about traditional Puerto Rican music. So tell us a little more about the inspiration to kind of include these lessons in the show.
Well, the show is about thinking. That's the main idea. I thought that kids were turned off to school and they were turned off to learning even before they realized they had this powerful thing called their minds, and they could think and use it and figure things out. The fact that it's placed in a Puerto Rican household forces us to use Puerto Rican culture as the lens through which we see the Alma's think-throughs as she thinks through her problems every day.
Yeah, so clearly this show is more than just about promoting diversity. You have some other
Absolutely.
goals. You have some other goals in mind. Can you talk about that?
Yes, that's exactly. The goal of the show is the kids know that they have a brain and they could use it. A lot of times now we want kids to memorize things. They have to take a lot of tests. We expect a lot of them, and they think that they're not as smart as they really are. So this show is telling them, you've got a brain, you've got a mind. The way you see the world is just as valid as the way anybody else sees the world. And Alma's here to prove it to you. So as I said, there's a thought bubble in every show when we see her little process of thinking her day through. So that's what the show's about.
Yeah, self-awareness, self-advocacy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so pleased that we were able to place it in the Bronx, and we have the number 6 train to prove it.
That's right.
I love it.
That's right. You know, I want to talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda is also involved in this, right? How so?
Well, I knew him from Sesame Street, and of course, I knew his father, Luis Miranda, who was very active in the Puerto Rican community for many years. So, as you know, Lin-Manuel has a way with words. You know, he can say with 3 words what it takes the rest of us 50 words to say. So I called up his father and I said, can you hook me up with your son? And he did, and Lin-Manuel rose to the occasion. It's a 30-second theme, and he has Lelolai in it. He introduces the island of Puerto Rico. He talks about the Bronx. There's hip hop in it. So in that very short opening, Lin-Manuel was able to put in all the components of the show.
That's great to have him a part of this great program. And you know, we want to bring in Marisol because she actually got to interview your little Alma, Summer Rose Castillo.
And we just want to have as many Puerto Ricans from the Bronx on one single broadcast as possible. Maria, thank you so much for everything that you've done, because I'm a testimony to having grown up in the Bronx on Baychester Avenue and 233rd Street and watching you and Big Bird and saying, one of those people looks like me. And then my older brother would say Big Bird, of course. But in all seriousness, you've really transcended, I think, a lot of what so many of us in the Latino community work for, which is inclusion and representation.
Yeah.
And I talked about that with Summer Castillo last week, and I just wanted to play you a little clip to hear her take on the show.
Okay.
And she loves her family and friends as much as I do. We're both Puerto Rican. And whenever Alma just has a problem, she loves to take a moment and she thinks it through so that way she doesn't have to, like, how could I say it?
Make a quick decision that maybe not be the best decision.
Yeah, she doesn't have to stress with her decisions. She takes a moment and see which one is right, because then if she picks the wrong one, she might pretty much end up with a big problem at the end.
I know you mentioned earlier about the goal of the show, but that sounds like a lesson, like think before you speak, and she talked about like you want to get to the bottom of what her thought bubble was. How much was that the end goal, or was that something that sort of evolved along the way as you created the show?
No, that was the first idea I had for the show. That was the very first idea that I had for the show. I found refuge in my mind when I was a kid in the Bronx. I lived in a tumultuous neighborhood. My household was tumultuous as well. And I found refuge in my mind. I would fantasize that I was a ballerina. I would find shapes in the cracks in the ceilings of our apartment. And I think it's a useful tool. And kids should just be aware that they have this.
Yeah.
That it doesn't depend on anything else. We're all born with it.
I love it.
Toda la gente tiene una mente.
Sonia, I got to ask you, do you have any other tricks up your sleeve, any other projects that you're working on right now that you might want to, just whisper about? It's just, the four of us chatting right now.
We won't tell.
Well, I will whisper that I have my latest book with Scholastic is called Coming Up Cuban. And of course, I'm not Cuban. I'm Puerto Rican, as you know. But the book is called Coming Up Cuban with Scholastic, a young adult novel. And it's about what happens to 4 children with Castro's revolution in 1959.
Wow.
I found myself very interested in that. And of course, I also always want to know how children react to social upheavals and like what we're going through now in the United States with this pandemic. And that's what that book is about. So watch out for it. It'll be out in the spring of 2022.
Great. We'll be looking for it.
Very cool. Sonia Manzano, thank you so much for sharing some time and your talent with us this morning. You are a delight.
Thank you.